Discover the incredible moment a waitress signaled a mafia boss, the life-changing twist exposed. Maria stood behind the counter of Giovanni's diner, the neon lights flickering like fireflies, casting a warm glow on the bustling crowd. The familiar scent of garlic and simmering tomato sauce filled her lungs, but tonight, the aroma felt different. It was laced with the tension of a neighborhood on edge, and she could feel it in her bones. A single mother in her late 30s, every shift was a careful dance between dreams and harsh realities. She poured coffee, served plates of spaghetti, all while her heart beat for her son, Leo, who deserved a life far removed from the chaos outside. Every late-night shift mixed laughter with the muted hum of struggle. The diner was a community hub where patrons shared stories, a place that felt like home, even as crime seeped into their lives. There was Mr. Rossi, the retired schoolteacher, his silver hair contrasting with the dark wood of the counter. He shared tales of better days, days when hope felt abundant. Yet another gunshot heard down the block reminded them all of the fragility around them. Maria's instincts kicked in as Tony Moretti, a slick figure in a tailored suit, strode into the diner, an air of intimidation following him. Whispers scattered amongst the patrons, eyes darting. When Mr. Rossi lightly scolded him for styling his restaurant as a muddy hole, Maria felt a surge of courage. She stepped forward, her voice steady but trembling inside. "Hey, let's keep it civil. We all have a stake in this place." In that heartbeat, she had signaled a boss known for ruthlessness. The air thickened with silence. For a brief moment, the only sound was the rattling of plates and clinking of glasses, layered with the low murmurs of uncertainty. A wave of panic washed over her. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue." The tension thickened. Tony's cold blue eyes locked onto Maria's. "Courageous little waitress, aren't you?" he said, his tone dripping with mockery. Yet beneath that bravado lay a flicker of respect, an acknowledgement of her fight. The diner patrons shifted uncomfortably, and Maria felt their eyes on her, the weight of their expectations suffocating. In the showdown of wills, he told her of a plot brewing beneath the surface, one that could either implode their lives or spark unity within a fractured community. She tried to focus on Leo's smile, keeping her mind clear of the storm brewing. But thoughts of her boy made it harder. He was obliviously waiting for her at home, dreaming of a safer place, a brighter future. As they both stood there, the world around them fading, Maria faced a decision: uphold her fierce protection over her son's innocent heart, or dive into this chaotic chess game where the stakes were high and the players ruthless. The question lingered in the air, heavy and daunting. Would she find the strength to spark change, or would fear shatter the bonds of her community forever? Maria's heart raced as she processed Tony's words. They hung in the air like the smoke from a bad decision, filling her lungs with uncertainty. What exactly was brewing in the dark alleys of their neighborhood? Was it a plan that could hurt someone she loved? She had faced countless challenges as a single mother, but this was different. She dared not look away from Tony's piercing gaze. Gathering her courage, she asked, "What do you mean? What's really going on?" Tony leaned closer, a grin creeping across his face, menacing yet oddly charming. "You're tough, Maria. I like that. There's a roster of players on the street, and they're ready to change the game. But what if there's a way to dodge the stakes?" His words twisted her stomach into knots. Was he offering a lifeline or pulling her into deeper waters? Around them, the diner felt charged, as if every patron could sense the shift in the atmosphere. Mr. Rossi looked concerned, his kind eyes darting between Maria and Tony. It was the kind of concern that wrapped around her heart like a warm blanket, but tonight it felt more like a chain threatening to pull her down. "What's in it for you?" Maria pressed, channeling the strength born of desperation and resolve. "Nothing comes for free, sweetheart. But you're respected here. People listen to you. Help me unite the neighborhood, and I can ensure the safety of your son and everyone in this diner." There was a brief pause, and Maria felt the weight of those words sink into her chest. The idea of safety was intoxicating. Leo was her priority, and the thought of him living a life free from fear was something she had dreamed about. But at what cost? Aligning with someone like Tony felt like walking a tightrope over the abyss. As her mind raced through possibilities, an unexpected voice broke through the tension. It was Linda, the diner's other waitress, her pale face contorted in concern. "Are you really considering this, Maria? He's dangerous." "Listen," Tony interrupted, his cool demeanor fraying. "Change doesn't come easy. If you want to keep Leo safe, you have to face the storm head-on." His words echoed in Maria's mind, entwining with the very essence of her being. Clenching her fists, she looked around at the faces she had come to know and love, the regulars, each one with a story, a history, a place in her heart. Could she really drag her community into Tony's games, into realms of threat and confrontation? She felt the heat of the decision burning at her core. Would she stand up and fight for them, wading into the uncertain waters of alliance and danger? Or would she pull back, holding tight to what little safety she had left around her and Leo? "What if," Maria began, her voice trembling slightly but growing stronger with each word, "what if we do unite? But on our terms. Not yours." Tony's smirk faded, replaced by intrigue. "You think you can play me?" "I'll do what it takes to protect my community," Maria asserted, lifting her chin defiantly. The air crackled with tension again, and she could see Tony weighing her words, contemplating this new angle she presented. Then, almost as if a wall had sprung up around them, the bell above the diner door jingled loudly, breaking the moment. A gang of rough-looking men strolled in, their laughter booming, filling the space with a chilling sort of energy. Maria felt the heat of her resolve tested. Tony shifted, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the newcomers. "I guess we've got ourselves an audience," he murmured, almost to himself. Maria's heart fluttered as she prepared to stand her ground. What would happen next? Would they allow her to carve a new path in the midst of chaos, or had she unwittingly stepped into a dangerous game she couldn't control? With her breath held and determination brewing in her soul, she faced the unfolding drama, ready to confront whatever came next. But little did she know, a deeper betrayal was looming on the horizon, one that could shatter everything she fought for. The laughter of the rough-looking men echoed through the diner, slicing through the tension like a knife. Maria's stomach twisted into knots at the sight of their arrogance. They were trouble, and she could feel it in her bones. Tony straightened himself, his demeanor shifting to something more guarded. "Just stay calm," he whispered, though there was a hint of urgency in his voice. "Watch how I handle this." Maria's heart drummed in her chest as she calculated her next move. The waitress in her was tempted to tell the gang to leave, to defend her home. But the darker part of her mind shouted warnings, cautioning her against escalating the situation in front of Leo's potential peril. The men settled at a booth near the back, their loud voices cutting through the chatter like a chainsaw through a quiet forest. She caught snippets of their conversation, a mix of bravado and threats that made her skin crawl. "Got some business to take care of," one of them sneered, looking at his friends as if they were in on a cruel joke. Tony took a step forward, relaxing his posture just a little. "Hey, boys," he said, voice dripping with feigned camaraderie. "You're a little late to the party. We've just been talking about how to make our neighborhood thrive." His boldness surprised her, igniting a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the sign of a man who could protect what was important. But as the gang shot him sharp glances, Maria felt a cold tendril of fear creep down her spine. The leader, a burly man with a scar that ran along his jaw, leaned back, arms crossed. "You talking community? Shouldn't you be more worried about your own skin, Tony?" The word Tony slipped off the man's tongue with a sneer, rich with disdain. Maria's instincts screamed that this was only the beginning of something bleak. "Listen, I've got my eyes on bigger things," Tony shot back, his bravado needing reinforcement as the tension ebbed and flowed like a tide. "How about you boys chip in instead of tear down?" He was playing the confident card, but all Maria could focus on was the beat of Leo's heart, echoing in her mind as she thought of their future. While the two men exchanged words that felt laced with electricity, she felt driven to make her move. "Hey!" Maria piped up, her voice steely but wavering inside. "If you want to talk about this neighborhood, you're gonna need to listen to someone who's actually from here." Her hands found the edge of the counter, grounding. The gang turned in surprise, their laughter now trailing off like smoke. "What's this little lady got to say?" The scarred leader mocked, but there was something in his gaze that suggested he wasn't laughing anymore. In that moment, every head in the diner turned to her, drawn by a mix of concern and curiosity. Mr. Rossi was watching closely, seeking validation in her eyes as he cleaned the grease off a plate. "Enough of the threats and games," she continued, emboldened. "If you're here to mess with us, you'll have to go through everyone." The words felt good, they wrapped around her like a shield. "We deserve better than this. We deserve safety, family. Not fear." Tony looked at her with admiration, but it was the gang that had turned still, the atmosphere heavy and thick. The leader's brow furrowed as he processed her words, the cracks in his bravado starting to show. "You think your words mean something here?" "This is our turf now," he challenged, but the threat lacked its usual bite. With tension simmering just beneath the surface, Maria felt the stirring of resolve in her heart. She couldn't back down now, this was a defining moment. But the stakes were dizzyingly high. What if she had just painted a target on her back, the back of Leo's least favorite hero? As the silence deepened, a new thought struck her, a wild idea that could change everything. Maybe she could bring people together, not just those at the diner, but whole hearts and souls from the neighborhood to stand alongside her, against the tide. The thought terrified her, yet it was the only ember of hope she had left to cling to. And just then, behind her, the bell jangled once more. Maria's heart leaped again, but this time it was not fear. She turned to see Leo standing at the entrance, eyes wide, innocence radiating from him in a space filled with darkness. "Mom?" he called out, voice quaking. In that moment, Maria knew she had to act, for Leo could tip the balance of everything she was fighting for. But would embracing this confrontation draw them into depths she couldn't imagine? How would she protect him when the limits of her courage were just starting to unfold? With the weight of her son's safety on her shoulders, Maria felt the ground shift beneath her. The true battle was just beginning, and she had to figure out who she could trust and who was looking to betray her. Maria's breath caught in her throat as she watched Leo step inside, so small and vulnerable against the looming shadows of the men at the booth. Her heart raced, emotions battling inside her like a fierce storm, fear for her son, anger at the gang, and a bubbling hope that this moment could spark some kind of change. "Mom," Leo repeated, taking a hesitant step closer, his little hands gripped tightly into fists at his sides. "Stay where you are," Maria commanded gently, though her voice wavered. She didn't want to scare him, but the last thing she needed was for him to wander deeper into danger. "Look at what we have here, fellas," the leader of the gang crooned, a menacing grin spreading across his face. He turned toward Leo, eyes glinting with mischief. "A little hero, trying to protect his mommy. Get away from him," Maria shouted, her voice cracking with pure motherly instinct. She could feel her entire being coiling with protectiveness, trying to shield Leo from the storm of chaos brewing. "Why don't we have a little fun? Maybe he'd like to join us in our plans," the leader taunted, his words dripping with malice, testing the very limits of her resolve. Tony stepped closer to her, his body tense as he eyed the gang leader. "This isn't the way to do things. Can't you see the fear in that kid's eyes?" His voice was calm but firm, a soothing wave in the thick tension. Maria's heart banged in her chest as she felt the eyes of the diner on her, a collective hold of breaths shared between them. Everyone seemed suspended in time, waiting for a spark, waiting to see if she could turn the tide before it consumed them all. "Fear can go both ways," the leader sneered, leaning forward, his voice low. "See, we have real power here. You think just because you shout a few words, you can change that?" "Listen," Maria's voice shook, but she pushed past the tremors. "I have the community behind me. You want to threaten us? Go ahead. But you'll be met with people who won't let you take what we've built. A flicker of surprise crossed the leader's face, though he quickly masked it with a scowl. The other men exchanged glances, some looking less certain, nodding fractionally, as if her words were sparking a light in the shadows. I say we teach her a lesson, one of the gang members said, his bravado wavering slightly. Maria locked eyes with Tony, who seemed to be weighing the risk against the distance from Leo to the men. No, she said, raising her chin defiantly. You will not touch a single hair on my son's head. You don't know what you're dealing with. Leo remained still at the door, wide-eyed but slowly processing the tension buzzing in the air like electricity. She could almost feel him shedding his innocence, forging a new strength born from the threats surrounding them. Mom, I'm scared, he finally whispered, voice trembling as he took a tentative step forward. Leo, stay back. She reached a hand toward him as if to pull him into her protective field. Everything inside her threatened to break, but she refused to falter. She shot a glance around the diner, feeling a charge of courage stir in the faces she recognized. The patrons were nodding, anchoring deeper into her resolve. Suddenly, a voice piped up from the corner. She's right, Mr. Rossi said, his shaky timbre turning powerful. We're all fed up with your nonsense. The realization hit Maria like a wave. Maybe this wasn't just her battle. If Mr. Rossi felt emboldened to speak, others might too. The tide could turn if she took the next step. The gang leader hesitated, glancing at his men as they appeared increasingly uneasy. The veil of dominance he'd woven was fraying, and Maria could sense it. This was the moment. Join us, or leave us be. You won't silence our family, Maria declared, her voice steady. The sincerity behind her words seemed to resonate, striking chords deep within the diner. As she made her case, she drew strength from Leo's wide eyes. It felt like a connection that could bridge every division, one that could rally the community around her. But what if they stood behind her and it wasn't enough? With the men still evaluating, Maria realized she was standing on a precipice. The future of her community and Leo's safety hung in the balance. Would they stand united against this menace, or was she simply prolonging the inevitable? The silence that followed loomed like a dark cloud, waiting for lightning to strike. But would that lightning bring change or destruction? The silence held, thick and suffocating. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum, and Maria seemed to feel the weight of every soul in that diner pressing down around her. She scanned the faces, those familiar glimpses of her community that had once stood united. Would they find that strength again? The gang leader broke the stillness, a laugh escaping his lips tinged with disbelief. What a touching little speech, huh? His mockery pierced the air, but the tremor in his voice gave Maria hope. You think this old place can scare us off? We take what we want. Suddenly, a hefty man moved from the back. It was Mr. Collins, the diner's owner, his face pale yet determined as he stepped forward. We don't want anything to do with you. You're not welcome here, he growled, drawing out the words like they were clinging for life. Maria's heart soared, an ember of shared bravery igniting within her. There were more voices ready to rise. That's right, Mr. Rossi added, his voice stronger. You've worn out your welcome and your threats don't work here anymore. The leader's grin slipped, his arrogance flickering like a dying flame. You think this is funny? He waved a hand toward the men, who fidgeted under the weight of their leader's disdain. They looked to one another, glancing toward the exit as if considering the unexpected shift. Not at all, Maria said, her eyes fierce, but we won't cower in fear any longer. You don't own this place. We have to take it back. Her words punctuated the defiant atmosphere filling the diner. The patrons began to nod, empowered by each other's presence. They were tired of letting the gang dictate their lives. Tired of fear. One by one, voices joined in. You'll regret messing with us, an older woman said, grasping her husband's arm, her nails digging for security. Another patron stood, hands clenched into fists. Let us show them that we fight together. The swell of community felt intoxicating. Like warm soup on a winter day. With Leo standing behind her in that doorway, watching her bloom into something fierce and protective, Maria could almost taste the victory. Yet the leader laughed again, albeit this time it lacked conviction. "You think you can threaten us?" He stepped forward with bravado, but his eyes darted to the exits. Maria could sense desperation creeping in, a shift in control. "Let us take this outside," one of the gang members suggested hesitantly, glancing nervously at Maria, who stood her ground. "Why don't we settle it here?" "Right now," Maria countered, her heart pounding in her chest, feeling the adrenaline course through her. In this moment, she was more than a mother, she was a warrior for her son, a protector of their home. "If you're brave enough to shove us around, let us see what happens when we stand up for ourselves." Flaring tension curled like smoke between them. The gang leader's eyes narrowed, weighing each side carefully, as the air felt electric and alive with the resolve of her community. But what would he choose? Would he run, scared off by the collective might of those he had tried to intimidate? Or would this escalate into something they couldn't control? Maria stood rooted, her gaze flicking to Leo once more. His small frame radiated resilience, solidifying the urgency within her. As disparate voices converged into a tapestry of unity around her, the choice felt even heavier. Would the gang retreat, or would this spark the fire they dreaded? Then, the leader's lips curled into a snarl as he stepped back, revealing a knife glinting under the diner's fluorescent lights. "You think you're brave?" he hissed. "I'll show you real power." The cook behind the counter gasped, and all eyes turned to the unfolding threat. In that moment of chaos, would their bravery be enough to face the oncoming storm? Would they protect what was rightfully theirs or let fear reign once more? Maria's stomach twisted tight, and she could almost hear the world holding its breath. Maria's heart raced as the knife caught the light above them, glimmering dangerously. The gang leader's face twisted into a mix of anger and exhilaration, as if the moment had ignited something wild within him. The other patrons recoiled, some instinctively taking a step back, while others clenched their fists in resolve. Fear clashed with defiance, and Maria stood at the center, taut like a drawn bow. "Stay back!" Mr. Collins shouted, his broad shoulders squared against the threat. The diner's owner brandished a metal spatula as if it were a sword, his expression a fierce blend of determination and desperation. The absurdity of the scene almost made Maria smile, but there wasn't time for that. "Get your knife out of here," a voice cried from the back of the diner. It was Mrs. Johnson, her eyes shooting daggers at the gang. Maria felt a surge of pride. A flicker of unity sparked anew, whispers began weaving through the crowd, infusing them with courage. "You think using a knife makes you tough?" Maria shouted, stepping forward, her chin held high. "It just shows how small you really are." The leader's smirk faltered, confusion slipping into his bravado. "You're gonna regret that," he shot back, but the words lacked the venom they once had. In that moment, they all could see it, the tiniest crack in his overinflated ego. "We're not backing down anymore." Leo's voice rang out from the doorway. Maria turned to see her son, small but resolute in his stance. His hands clenched defiantly at his sides, and a flash of something wild lit up his eyes. Her heart swelled, they had all found their strength together. The leader's gaze flicked back and forth between Maria and Leo, his bravado wavering with each moment of heated silence. The crowd around them began to shift, a ripple of energy coursing through as solidarity took form, an invisible wall holding back the tide of intimidation. "Let us show him, folks," a patron called out, raising their glass high. "Stand your ground, Mama," Leo shouted with an urgency that tore Maria's heart in two. The supportive cheer echoed throughout the diner, and suddenly the people Maria thought she had lost in silence all began to rise. It was doing something beautiful and terrifying. They were stepping forward, side by side, reclaiming what they had almost surrendered. The gang leader's bravado finally cracked like porcelain under pressure, his eyes darting to the faces surrounding him. "You think you can take me?" he sneered, but this time there was less conviction in his tone. Maria felt a slight grin tug at her lips. "We don't need to take you. We're taking this back. You've already lost." The defiance hung thick in the air, hanging like smoke. The energy was electric, and the knife caught in the leader's grasp felt more like a relic of a time long past, a threat that had just about extinguished itself. But even as the tension shifted, they all knew this was not over. What if the gang resisted? What would be the next move? A tense silence fell again. She could sense the crowd's nervous anticipation, eyes wide and voices held. With the gang leader cornered, Maria steeled herself, knowing they were on the brink of something monumental. In that charged moment, the door swung open, and a newcomer walked in, a familiar face, but one they had all missed in their battle against fear. Would this surprise tilt the balance in their favor, or would it make everything unravel? The diner's door swung wide, letting in a rush of cold air, but nobody particularly noticed. All eyes were on the figure stepping into the room, striking as if she were a light breaking through the darkness. It was Lisa, Maria's sister, who had been absent for months, lost in her own struggles. "Lisa!" Maria called out, but her voice was swallowed in the chaos of the moment. The gang leader's gaze snapped towards the newcomer, skepticism creeping in. "Didn't your mama teach you to stay away from bad company?" He jeered, the bravado still flickering like a stubborn flame. Lisa's presence was electric. She stepped forward, her long hair splayed over her shoulders, eyes daring him to pull his knife. And what's worse? Hiding behind that knife, or hiding behind a family that doesn't care? Maria felt a mix of relief and anger surge through her, but seeing her sister here gave a strange sense of hope. The diner patrons shifted as Lisa's words sank in. They were facing the threat together, with shared histories and wounds that none of them had laid bare until now. "Back down," the leader insisted, his voice shrill and desperate. The wildness that had fueled him seemed to be waning, like a dying wave pulling away from the shore. But no one moved. Instead, Mr. Collins stepped forward, his spatula poised in a way that spoke of unity, solidarity, and fiery hope. "Listen to her, we've had enough." He boomed, and his voice reverberated off the diner's walls, highlighting how the very fabric of their small community was woven together. The crowd stood united, conscious of their collective power, emboldened by Lisa's unexpected return. "You see this, right?" Maria gestured broadly. "We're not alone anymore. We never were." The gang leader glanced from face to face, the bravado draining as he recognized the shared strength in the room. The laughter and warmth that once filled these walls echoed back to him, not in the form of feigned confidence but in the truth of solidarity. Lisa stepped back toward Maria, her voice steady. "We've been fighting our fears for too long. You're not alone, Maria. Not anymore." The leader's facade continued to crumble. "You think this will intimidate me?" He hissed, but his words were less a threat and more an assertion to his own shattered ego. Suddenly, Leo rushed forward, eyes brimming with determination. "You're nothing. Just a bully with a knife." The crowd erupted in murmurs, fists clenched tighter, encouragement emboldening them further. With every show of strength, Maria saw the gang leader searching for a way out, desperate to reclaim authority that was slipping between his fingers like sand. Hope transformed into a tangible force, pressing against them with a promise of change. But could it last? With each passing second, tension grew as he weighed his options, shifting nervously. "Walk away," Maria urged, feeling the wild thrum of her heart echo in her throat. "We'll let you keep your dignity. Just leave us be." The gang leader paused, uncertainty flickering across his features. He glanced at his crew, their loyalty eroding, stifled by the resolute strength around them. What if they really did back down? What if they let the fear dissipate with one last act of defiance? His eyes narrowed, calculating, searching for any sign of weakness. Would he seize this moment or retreat? The air crackled with anticipation, each breath drawn held tightly against the unknowing. And then, just like that, he turned on his heel and stormed out, the clang of the door echoing the fading of his dominance. A collective gasp went up from the crowd, stunned silence punctuated by disbelief and a rush of relief. But as they absorbed what had just transpired, one question hung heavily in the air. Would their newfound courage sustain them against whatever would come next? And how would they reclaim their lives after this? The moment of victory felt like an uneven dance on a precipice, and Maria knew they had so much left to confront. The silence thickened, wrapping everyone in a critical pause. Maria could feel her heart racing, pounding against her ribs, echoing with disbelief. Did we really just do that? She whispered as she glanced at Lisa, whose eyes shone with a mixture of triumph and trepidation. Lisa met her stare, a small smile crossing her lips. Yes, we did. But it's just the beginning, Maria. There was a wave of quiet excitement rippling through the diner. Patrons began to share nervous laughter, absorbing the fact that they had faced down a threat together. It was a small victory, but monumental in their small corner of the world. Mr. Collins thumped the spatula on the counter, breaking the reverie. Now, who's going for pie? His unexpected cheeriness snapped everyone back into the present, and the tension started to dissipate. Slowly, the crowd began to move, clapping each other on the shoulders, and in that instant, camaraderie thickened the air. For the first time in a long while, Maria felt a glimmer of the warmth she remembered from when they were kids. Well, I guess no one's touching my perfect blueberry pie, Leo joked, and laughter rang throughout the diner, light and airy like a spring breeze dispelling the remnants of winter. As the crowd chatted and ordered their favorites, Maria pulled Lisa aside. How did you know to come back now? She wrestled with the swell of emotions inside, anger, fear, but most of all, joy. Lisa's gaze softened, her walls crumbling. It just felt right. I was in a destructive place before, but I realized I needed to be here. You needed me. Their eyes locked, and Maria could see the shadows that had haunted her sister. I missed you, she admitted, her voice trembling. I missed you too. And I was scared. But I can't hide anymore. This family, these people, they're part of my heart, Lisa confessed, her voice catching slightly. I want to help us all move forward. Together. At that moment, Maria felt as if the weight of the past was beginning to lift. But before she could respond, the door swung open once more, and an icy draft swept into the diner. Every head turned, the festive atmosphere shattering. The gang leader had returned, this time not alone. A cadre of his men followed, and the air crackled with hostility once more. You think this is over? He spat, his eyes glinting with fury. Maria's heart dropped. What now? The diners huddled together, forming a wall of solidarity, but doubt crept in again. The spark of bravery flickered, uncertain. Stay strong. Lisa urged, stepping forward. You've faced him once, you can do it again. But doubt echoed in Maria's mind. Could they stand up to him a second time? Would their fragile victory hold? Let us finish what we started, the leader sneered, and the weight of his words threatened to drown them all once more. As the air grew heavy with tension, Maria's mind raced. Was it really worth it to fight again? In that moment, the path before them transformed from hope to uncertainty, and Maria realized one thing: they had to figure out how to wrest their lives back from fear, but at what cost? With tension building and the stakes higher than ever, the diner held its breath, waiting for the next move in this fiery Game of Thrones. The diner pulsed with anxiety. Maria's heart was a drum, each thud mimicking the uncertainty hanging in the air. She could see the gang leader's men, their expressions hard as stone, ready to enforce his menacing claim. Stay together. Mr. Collins shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. That command sank deep into the crowd, igniting a flicker of resistance within them. Even in the face of danger, there was a flicker of determination in those eyes. Grab what you can. We stand as one. Lisa urged, her words fierce with a newfound strength. Maria felt the warmth of rebellion brewing, like a spark in the dark. The leader's men slowly stepped forward, eyes scanning the crowd. Maria could feel the trembling of her friends nearby, fear dancing in the wrinkles of their brows. But Lisa stood firm, shoulder squared, a warrior in an apron. For a brief moment, Maria thought she caught a glimpse of her childhood hero, that girl who climbed trees and conquered every playground challenge. What more can you throw at us? Lisa called out, her voice like steel. Maria couldn't help but admire her sister. We've faced you once, and we're still here. The leader's lip curled into a sinister smile. You think you've won, but you're just delaying the inevitable. This little diner is just a blip on our radar. Maybe, but it's our blip, Leo replied, stepping forward beside Lisa. And we're not letting it go without a fight. A collective gasp rippled through the patrons, and Maria felt the weight of fear lift just a little. They were banding together, standing tall. The thought of the familiar faces around her gave her encouragement. I don't care what you think. A voice shouted from the back. It was Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman who always ordered the chicken soup. Her thin voice was filled with a surprising volume. You may have your gang, but we have our family. We have love. Cheers erupted around the room. It was as if Maria could see the strength pooling into a river, washing away the doubts that clung to them. The leader's smirk faded, and his eyes darkened as he realized the unity forming right in front of him. Love won't save you, he sneered, eyeing each person, trying to sap their courage. But his words had lost their bite. And suddenly, adrenaline surged through Maria. Maybe it won't save us, but it makes us strong. Together, we can take you down. The sounds of plates clinking and laughter began to mix back into the air. It felt like a melody, an odd contrast to the threat before them, but somehow it worked. The fear was turning into resolve, unity was blooming once more. What's it going to be? The leader challenged, his voice dripping with disdain. You think this little display can scare me away? Maria's mind raced. She felt backed into a corner, but she wouldn't yield. It's not about scaring you, she called out, fighting to keep her voice steady. It's about standing our ground. We love this place too much to let you tear it down. Every person, every diner turned to the leader, faces determined. Behind him, his men shifted uncomfortably, glancing between each other. Lisa took a step forward. We won't let fear run our lives any longer. You need to leave, and if you don't, we'll show you exactly what we're fighting for. As tension crackled, Maria felt a rush of something profound, something almost magical, like they had transformed from a group of uncertain diners into an army of resilience. The gang leader's bravado wavered as he surveyed the sea of defiance. Very well, he spat, taking a step back. You may have your small moment now, but this isn't over. The doors swung wide as he turned on his heel, the icy air slamming back into the diner, but it was different this time. The patrons stood tall like a shield against fear. Breathing slowly, Maria could almost feel hope blooming within her. But would this be enough? As the door crashed shut, every heart felt the weight of the unresolved battle. What would happen next? Would the leader really leave them alone, or was this only the beginning of their real fight? With the diner's pulse still racing, they all knew that the true challenge wasn't just in facing him but in figuring out how to keep their newfound courage alive. The air buzzed with a strange mix of relief and uncertainty as Maria held her breath, her heart racing. The diner seemed to draw life from the pulse of solidarity around her. They had faced down the gang leader, but the threat still lingered, a ghost waiting to return. Maria caught Leo's eye, his small frame exuding an unexpected strength. She felt fierce pride swell within her. He had stood with her, unyielding against the storm, and in that moment she realized that courage was not just about fearless acts, it was about facing fears together. Did you see that? Leo beamed, bouncing on the balls of his feet. You were awesome, Mom. We all were, Leo, she replied, ruffling his hair with warmth flooding her heart. Every single person here is a part of this victory. Across the diner, patrons were still buzzing, sharing a newfound fervor amongst one another. Mr. Collins patted a nearby regular on the back, and Mrs. Henderson was pouring iced tea for her neighbors from her favorite pitcher, no longer shaking with fear. Let us not let this moment die, Mr. Rossi called out, raising his glass. To Maria. To us. To family. Others echoed, clinking their glasses together, laughter breaking through the lingering tension. Unity swept through them like the rising tide in a storm, washing away the remnants of fear. But then, breaking the buoyant atmosphere, Maria caught a shadow moving at the entrance. The door creaked open, her heart sinking, anticipating the worst. But instead of the gang, it was the neighborhood's top cop, Officer Daniels, stepping inside with a stern look. A hush fell over the diner, apprehension replacing the warmth. "Evening, folks," he said, eyebrows knitting together as he surveyed the scene. "What is going on here?" "A little community resilience," Tony said, standing closer to Maria, an unexpected ally. "They just kicked out some unwanted guests." Officer Daniels glanced at the faces around the room, noting that defiance sparked in their expressions. His hardened demeanor softened slightly. "Is that right? I heard some reports of trouble. Never thought I'd see such courage in here." "Courage and community," Maria corrected, her voice steady. "We're not going to let fear dictate our lives anymore. We want our streets back." "I admire that," he acknowledged, admiration flaring in his eyes. "But if you're truly serious, I need to know what's happening here. If they come back, we need to be ready." Tony nodded, stepping forward. "Maria has a plan. We're willing to unite, not just as consumers of this diner, but to protect our families, join forces with the police, whatever it takes." Officer Daniels glanced around, conviction filling his voice. "All right. If you're in this together, then we can finally take a stand. I'll get extra patrols monitoring the area, but it starts with you. You keep your community strong." Maria's heart raced with the potential unfolding before her. "We'll do our part. Neighborhood meetings, building links with each other. It's time we took ownership of our safety." The atmosphere shifted again, the weight of shared responsibility igniting new hope. "United we grow," Mr. Rossi declared, the warmth spreading through the diner like sunlight breaking through clouds. For the first time in a long while, Maria felt a flicker of certainty. They could rise above fear, forge new paths while bringing their community together. "Who's ready for a family meeting?" she asked, glancing around. The overwhelming cheer that met her proposal echoed through the diner like a battle cry, affirming what she had known deep down: families build strength together. As Leo smiled brightly, her worry for the future softened. They had faced down a storm, and in doing so, they had woven stronger threads that connected everyone who shared this corner of the world. No one could walk in fear anymore, not when love anchored them together. And though the coming days would undoubtedly bring challenges, Maria felt ready to take them on, for her family, for her community. This was the moment where they all transformed, moving forward as warriors against the shadows of fear. After quieting the chatter, she raised her glass, voice steady and true. "To courage, to community. To us." They cheered in unison, echoing the strength that had awakened in them. The legacy of Giovanni's diner was changing right before their eyes, filled with laughter, hope, and the unwavering belief that they could create a brighter future together. And as the evening wore on, Maria understood that facing the storm was just the beginning. The real journey was building a life where fear had no hold, where love guided every step. That was the life she dreamed of giving Leo, and she was determined to make it a reality. Now was the time for action. A firm belief swept through the diner. "Let us get to work. Would you stand with your community and unite against fear? This is your moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire change. Leave a like now to support the algorithm and keep this powerful message alive. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this incredible transformation. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how love and courage can change everything. Don't wait not even one more second to share. You need to be part of this journey.